So here we have our brand new John Deere 318G 2025 model. Coming around, first thing off the bat is we got the tires that are exceptionally good for concrete, which will be mostly what this machine's doing, scraping. Downside of these is they hold a lot of material inside the tires when you go through mud. They don't clean out very fast, and so they make a little bit more of a mess on concrete surfaces. Got the face plate here, as you can see, it hasn't even had a bucket attached to it yet. So this skid loader has 2 hours on it currently. Just got delivered last week here. Dad ordered this machine back in late November of 2024. We knew we were looking for an upgrade. At that time we were just replacing the LS170, and then later on a local dealer had this bigger skid loader, so we actually got that one before this one got here. Well, this one still had to be made by the time we ordered it. And it was probably up at the local dealer for probably 2 weeks before the roads were decent to deliver, since they're about half-hour away. Coming into the cab here, so we either have H pattern or ISO. H pattern's a lot simpler for going from hand and foot controls to just hand controls, in my opinion. There is what you call turtle mode. There's like 3 speeds on these skid loaders compared to just 2, so that's kind of convenient. And you can slow down how fast it'll let you go by 10%. So that's kind of nice for if you're trying to do really small movements. The other thing I started running H pattern when we first got the other skid loader, and I like to attach and detach my bucket while I'm moving, because I don't like to sit still while I'm trying to accomplish a task here on the farm. And I realized you have to have both hands to detach that bucket, so you're sitting still for probably 15 seconds there while you're trying to switch buckets. I'm switching buckets a lot throughout the day. I like to have the bucket detached by the time I get to the other bucket, so I can set it down, move over, and keep rolling. So therefore, if I'm running, I can have one hand on that lever, the other hand, because you have to have your hand up here to detach it. Or with my New Holland, you could put your leg on the steering wheel and keep driving while you're detaching the bucket. So that's the other thing I've seen there. Some people might not have that problem if you're just on the same bucket all day. Also, when you're mixing up feed, we're doing a lot of driving around from bag to bag. Once you get your scoop, you might be sitting in the skid loader for a minute or a minute and a half before you need to move your boom again. So you're occupying both hands when you have an extra one free. If someone calls you, you have to completely stop again, and you're sitting there. So you have that option, I guess you could say, but I feel that it's handy. This one has all the bells and whistles on it. Has this light here. I'm not sure how that's gonna work. I was hoping it was pointed towards the front a little bit more, because I know at night it's nice to have. Mine, New Holland, has light on the side, but this one's kind of just over here in La La Land. Really nice for picking up bales at night. During wheat harvest, do a lot of picking up bales in the nighttime or putting them away, and you can see what's going on over here. You know, you're doing that last pass in the field, making sure you don't miss some, because it's gonna take a while to go over every little spot in the field. When you're out in the dark trying to pick up bales, it's nice to get that extra 10 feet each way. You can be like, all right, for sure got all the bales. Even though I tend to miss one once in a great while, and it sits there until the next day. But anyways, I think these might be a little bit brighter. I haven't had this out and used it yet, but they look a little different. Hopefully we don't have any problems with these lights going out, like both 2018 skid loaders tend to have some problems with the lights going out on the front. That kind of has been a flaw, I guess you could say. The seat is a little bit different, but they haven't changed a whole lot. Obviously, you got a foot throttle right here. I don't know. I think that's just a little space to put your foot on, but they have a little elevator there to keep your foot elevated so you're not flat-footed. It does have a mirror. It's not quite as big as the New Hollands, but that's all right. The only thing this doesn't have is the backup camera. It's just a little screen with a camera, and but that's the only thing it doesn't have. It comes in different packages. We did add the weights because I've noticed over the years of using the other 318 that doesn't have weights, it's extremely light when you're going to load spreaders and you come to a stop. Unless you're completely stopped with a full bucket and then you raise your boom, it almost always tips just a little bit. So especially here at this farm, coming out of the big barn, if you're going, you know, 4 or 5 mile an hour and you start raising that boom up and you start slowing down with a decent sized bucket, it's a lot more prone to tipping forward, and you get the wrong operator that goes too close to the manure spreader, and then they stop, which I've seen happen. Then you know, roll into the spreader, and there's a lot higher chance of shattering that window. So hopefully that doesn't happen. This one doesn't have a bulletproof windshield, but we'll see how long that lasts. Hopefully most of its life anyways. This morning I did see a skid loader here with about 8,000 hours on it, and it was in rough shape, but it was on a dairy farm. It looked like most likely this thing was on a tire scraper its whole life. So I feel that if these people can make it to last that long, I would assume it was probably neglected a little bit. If a machine's getting 1,500 hours, 2,000 hours a year, it usually doesn't get taken care of the way it probably could have been. But excited to see what we can get out of this skid loader. It's not a New Holland, that's my preference. Some people, I'm a little biased, I'd say, to New Holland. That's what I grew up with, running the little New Hollands, and I liked them. And then I got this 220 and I fell in love with it. I'm not sure if anybody can change my mind on it, but I guess I'll see with this machine here. A little bit smaller tires than the other two skid loaders, but these are the same as our old New Holland had. So one thing I really don't like about this boom design on these is how this comes up so much farther. When you're scraping, it's instead of this point up here being the highest, when you have your boom up just a little bit, you could hit something here, especially under the bank barn. I really don't like the way they have this. I call it a two-part design, because this is your piece here to make the boom go forward as it goes up. I really dislike how they have that set up, because you think you're going to be fine because you can see that, but when you're operating the machine you can't see where this piece is, so you're not sure how high it is. So that is kind of a flaw there. The other thing that I really don't like is this whole business in here. Yeah, there's a little hole there, but when you have a manure flying up into that hole, right now the one at the other farm is built up all the way up to that cylinder, so then every time your boom goes down, it's hitting, you know, solid manure that's frozen. So we're thinking possibly to have some sort of fender, even if it's only up to here. I think it'd be beneficial long term because of the amount of manure that's going to be flying around here on this machine. But yeah, it's been 20 years exactly, to my knowledge, before my time, but Dad said it was 2005 when he bought the LS 170 brand new. So it's been 20 years now since we've had a brand new skid loader on the farm, and we've only had, I think, like 5 skid loaders in between there, not very many. But we don't put a crazy amount of hours on a skid loader in a year. Excuse me, I'd say combined between all 4 skid loaders, probably in total between the 2 farms here, I would say 1,000 hours a year would be a pretty safe assumption. If anything, maybe a little less than that. But we'll have to see. Most likely, I'd say this machine will get about about 500 hours a year on it. If I use the New Holland a little bit less, and we just use the big skid loader solely just to mix feed, maybe load a manure here and there. But these skid loaders are nice to get around the barn, especially since a couple of them are a little smaller. Eventually, if we were to get a bigger mixer, we'd have to make sure that we had a big skid loader to load it all the time, because these skid loaders do, if you get anything bigger, it'd be next to impossible to load unless you bought a high dump bucket for the skid loader. Another thing here, the hydraulics are all built into the boom. I believe that's almost on all the skid loaders now. I have actually hit the ones on my skid loader before and bent it just enough to crack the metal line there and get a hole in it, so I got to replace all 3 metal lines to go the whole way up the boom, so that was exciting. Except for the bank account that day. But anyways, me and hydraulics don't get along very good, but maybe these will work a lot better than the we only have one hydraulic thing on this farm, and that's the little 2-way blade, and it hasn't worked as well as I would have hoped. Another thing that they have improved, this is a 2025 model. They started making this series 2017. Our other one at the other farm's a 2018. They haven't changed much on the back, but what they have changed is positive. First thing, they made this a little plastic piece. I still don't like that the gas or the diesel tank's down here, but it makes sense since it's on the bottom. This used to be a chain, and the other one broke one day. I feel like this plastic, even though it's plastic, I think it'll last longer. I did think it was funny it got here, and it had an empty tank of fuel, which I guess when you get a new machine, it's always gonna have that. But I think the lights on the other one were not built in like that, so that's a little different. Has a horn, but it has no def. It just has this emissions thing here. I guess something I have not mentioned yet was that this machine does have a warranty since it's brand new from John Deere. It has a 2-year or 2,000 hour warranty. So if this machine has 2 hours on it from 2 years, and from 2 years from now, if something happens at, let's say, 3 hours, it's not going to be covered after it's been on the farm for 2 years. To my knowledge, once it gets here, it starts on that day. But if you could get 2,000 hours on it before then and something happened at 2,100 hours, then it also wouldn't be covered. But they've got it figured out that there shouldn't be any problems between now and then. At least I would hope not. The only thing different is I'm pretty sure the emissions warranty is 5 years, and that's statewide policy, I'm pretty sure. So the doors on these you can see much nicer when you're looking down, at least. I'm not sure if the visibility through the top roof is quite as good. You only need that when you're stacking straw bales real high. But the seat moves. I'm not sure on the suspension. I'll give you a little bit more of an overview as I get running the machine, but it's going to be quite similar to the big Deere that I've been running for probably 3 weeks now, and that's been an awesome upgrade compared to the older Deere. 4 years ago was also 4.5 years ago, I think, was also a big time on the farm, because we went from having 3 open skid loaders to having 3 open skid loaders and a cab skid loader. That was a big deal when we got the New Holland. And then we got another one that year, so then we had 2 for a while, and that was a game changer, even just having 1 around. I thought 2 was a sweet spot, but here we are at 3. So we're in the cab here. That's your horn right there, and then you got some other buttons for hydraulics if you'd have that hooked up. This machine also has ride control on the right lever here and 2-speed on the left. You got your little switch to slow it down, things to open the windows here, there, and there. Windshield wipers in the same spot. This is where the backup camera would go if you have one of those. So they just have this little thing to put stuff there instead. There's your hours, 2.6 hours. Got a radio. Had to do a little convincing to get Boss Man to get me a radio in here, but hey, I got one now. But anyways, he doesn't listen to the radio, and I like to listen to the radio. It does have an aux cord there. Over here is kind of your how to run the machine if you're new to it. Go ahead. This one does not have a key like the one at the other farm. We prefer a key, but they did make a couple of these buttons smaller. Turn that off. Start her up. And this is how you can change the mode that the machine's in. So if you want to go to ISO, you just hit that. If you want H pattern, you hit it again. There's a couple other stuff for ride control. And I'm not sure about the self-leveling part. I hope it has self-leveling, but I'm not sure on that. I'm gonna have to figure that out. I would surely think it would, but that might be an option, I guess. I'd have to do a little searching, because that would be nice when you're scraping. But yeah, and then you got lights, AC, a lot of the stuff's the same. Throttle's right there. Go ahead, shut that rig off. Just got your lap bar, which goes up a little bit higher than the New Hollands, I think, also. So hopefully you don't hit your head. I prefer the door to open like the side on the New Hollands. I don't know, it seems like you always want to get on the left side, but maybe that's just habit. These ones open the opposite way, so it's a little bit funky if you've especially when I'm running the New Holland all day, and then I go get in one of the John Deeres, and I always come from that side and have to crawl over across the front because I realize that they open on the other side. So you got to kind of remind yourself that it opens on the opposite side. But serial tags right there. It was made in Mexico. Construction year 2025. I'm not sure if it was made before the 31st of the year or not. It also has a little sensor on top of the roof. We just found out that it can sends information to the local dealer. So if we would have a problem with, say, hydraulic sensor or something, they could pull up their computer and be like, yeah, you need to do this, this, and that, instead of coming out here to the farm and diagnosing it. So that's something different that has been added in the past few years. But serviceability is not too bad on these. I've never done a full service by myself on one of these. Advantage here is the air filter. There's plenty of space there. If you've ever changed air filters on a New Holland, you'll know what I'm talking about. They also fixed this here. This piece used to go below this piece, which is a design flaw. If anything, this piece should be higher here than this one, so stuff can flow off if it hits this. So I think they've got that figured out though. But yeah, just a little bit more technology on this rig. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed today's review on the new skid loaders here at the farm. Kind of exciting. When a farmer gets to buy a new piece of machinery, it's always something to look forward to. There's always something else that you could have bought, but it's one of them decisions on what to buy. Seems simple to justify one of these machines since it gets used every day, no matter what. So anyways, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I hope to see you in the next video.